Vamos a grabar aquí y buenas tardes. Muy buenas tardes. ¿Cómo están ustedes? ¿Están bien?
Sí.
¿Están bien? Sí?
Sí.
Magnífico.
Sí.
Okay. I know we got a few people out tonight, so we'll probably have a small group. I don't think we're going to have to go into small groups tonight, unless this changes quite a lot, but creo que no. I think not. I'm going to show you the screen you may need if you like to pull up a second screen. If you're one of those folks, or if you printed something out and you need it. Voy a compartir aquí la pantalla. Here are our questions, which are based on the photographs that we had from the video. Y aquí tenemos el vocabulario del video, pero por lo general, la cosa más importante es, aquí tenemos 6 preguntas, básicamente. Las preguntas, if you need those to have that and, keep it in mind, that is a good thing to have handy. If you'd like to pull the screen, great. Or if you are one of those folks who is a fan of printing stuff out, then that works too. No me importa mucho. It doesn't matter to me that much, which method you want to use. Okay. A ver, pero primero vamos a tener un ejercicio de calentar. We're going to have a warm-up exercise, which will be a little bit different tonight because I like to mix things up a bit. And what we're going to have is a little bit of and I need you guys to help out with this today. Necesito que ustedes me ayuden aquí. I need you guys to help me. We're going to do a little bit of reading aloud practice, but, very little, like 1 or 2 sentences. One of the biggest things that we all need to work on that is really good for everybody is that really basic level, and it seems like it's too basic, but it really isn't, of really working those vowels, really working pronunciation. And one of the best things for working pronunciation is to read out loud. And so we're going to do a little bit of that. It is a super short article. 2 páginas, 2 pages, and there's a lot of space, blank space in between, a lot of negative space. So I'm going to ask some people to volunteer reading 1 or 2 sentences, whatever you're comfortable with, and it is not a speed test. You're not reading to see how fast you can get it out at all. What you're attempting to do is practice pronunciation in a really thoughtful way, a measured way. And what we really want to focus on is getting rid of that very, very sinful thing we call the schwa sound. Okay, so really, really focus on vocales, on a, e, I, o, u. Focus on getting those vowels, like hitting them right on the money, because one of the things that the mistakes that English speakers really need to work on is to make sure we don't let our English pronunciation bleed into Spanish pronunciation, because changing vowels can really, really drastically alter a word in Spanish, as you all know. And so we want to make sure we get those vowels like hit the nail on the head, right? It is a timely article. Well, if you were in Spain, it was a timely article. Vamos a ver, we're going to see. You'll see them on the share screen. Pueden ver. Sí. Ok. Y voy a leer solamente el título. Bien, sí. España registra en el abril más caluroso y seco de la historia. Mm-hmm. This was in the news a lot. This was coming up in all of my feeds, because even though it's not really that horrible kind of heat wave we think of for April, it was super hot. They broke a lot of records. España registra el abril más caluroso y seco de la historia. And that you should read no faster than that. Okay. So Spain registers or records the warmest and driest April in history. Good. Okay. Now, this will have some challenges in the form of numbers. Probably, okay. But we want to spend a good 15, 20 minutes on this to kind of work our mouth muscles and throat muscles and all that good stuff. Un voluntario, volunteer to start us off. And if you just want to take one sentence or two, that's fine. Lo que quieran, whatever you want. And if you're raising a hand, when I put the share screen on, I can't see everybody. I can only see about maybe 4 people at a time. So who'd like to start? Be brave.
Voy a hacer.
Esteban.
Está bien, ok.
Adelante.
Okay. Madrid, España afectada por la sequía, dice que el mes pasado fue el abril más caluroso y seco desde que comenzaron los registros en 1961.
Sí. Uno, sí. Excelente. Sí, 1961. Okay. Spain, affected by drought, says that last month was the warmest and driest April since they started keeping records in 1961. Bueno, okay. Now we've got one nasty word here. Meteorología. And if you struggle a little bit with that one, don't worry about it. But that's the only really, really bad one. And then we've got this word siglas, which looks like siglos. Siglos is century, but siglas is not century. Siglas quiere decir, it means acronym, an abbreviation. Like we might say NASA or FIFA if you're a soccer fan. Or, yeah, okay. Entiende, you understand. Okay. Somebody want to take that one? This one's kind of long. And when you take... Okay, bien.
La Agencia Estatal de Meteorología, conocida por sus siglas en español, AEMET, dijo el lunes que la temperatura promedio diaria en abril fue de 14.9 grados centígrados, 58.8 Fahrenheit,
sí.
Es decir, 3 grados centígrados por encima del promedio.
Okay. Y promedio es average. Bien, average. Okay. So the only word I really want to call your attention to is diaria. And that's because we got so darn many English words that have combinations like that, and it sneaks in. Diaria.
Yeah, I made it diarrhea. I know.
Yeah. Diarrhea no lo es. Sí. Diaria. Okay, bien. And, we always, everybody stumbles over something. But that really big, bad one, don't worry about a word like that because you're not likely to have to use a word like that. But, promedio, average, okay, that's a good word. Temperatura, good word. Even diaria. Buena palabra, diaria, ¿sí? Okay. Vale. And you may hear people express numbers with decimal points. You may hear it as punto nueve, 14.9. You may hear it expressed as 14.9. Con nueve. Es posible. Possible. Sometimes when you've got that decimal point thing going on, they'll express that as a con with. Because why did they do it that way? No lo sé. De verdad no lo sé porque quizá maybe it's because it's a portion, pero así es. Okay, vale. And words like this that are borrowed from a foreign language or a foreign name, is that from a name? I think it is from a name, is it not originally?
It is,
They just keep it as, whatever they get closest to. Okay. A-E-M-E-T. Okay. Bueno, gracias. Muchísimas gracias. King, who wants to take the next portion here and I'll highlight it? It's a shortie. Okay. Bueno, Juanita.
A-E-M-E-T dijo que las temperaturas máximas promedio durante el mes aumentaron a 4.7 grados centígrados. Centígrados.
You might not be able to see that it has an accent mark, but centígrados punches a syllable you don't expect. Centígrados. Okay. See? Bueno, okay. And the hard word in there was this one because it's got that ow sound. Ow. Aumentaron. You did pretty well with that one. Aumentaron. Ow, ow. When we have two vowels together, they do the diphthong thing, and we have to make them blend together as much as possible, unless you see an accent mark, which then tells you punch one sound more. Here, no accent mark. So, ow. It'll be like, ow. Just like that. Exactly like that. Aumentaron. Aumentaron. Added. So aumentaron, think of it as, augmented.
Oh, added, yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Think of aumentaron as augmented. Augmented reality means it's added on, right? Okay. Vale. Okay. Think of it as going up. Aumentaron. Bueno, gracias. Okay. And I've got some things in here. We've got a conditional. So I've got a translation, which of course, when you read, you will skip over. But okay. Vale.
Try that one. You want me to do that one? I'll try. Las precipitaciones fueron una quinta parte de lo que normalmente se esperaría en el mes, lo que lo convierte en el abril más seco registrado en España.
Okay, bien. I really liked your convierte. I really liked hearing that convierte. Let's think about this word, and here's where our English bleeds over. We won't have registrado. We'll have that GI will be a he. ¿Cómo se pronuncia? How do we pronounce this word?
Registrado.
Registrado. That R will get a strong, just don't worry too much about the R trilling thing. The real thing which we native English speakers need to work consciously on is not so much like people always think about the trilled R, but it's these vowels. Registrado. Okay. Registrado. We'll never have a j sound with that letter G. And, your brain wants to say registered. Yeah. Registrado. Okay. Bien. Sí. That's what it is. Gracias. Muchas gracias. And make sure when we do that, like fueron, fueron. That fueron, that on at the end, a lot of us tend to want to make a schwa, and you really want to make sure you don't, you go hard in on the oh. A nice short but definitely an and not an because fueron sounds like fueran. There are two words in Spanish. One is fueran, an, not an on, but an an, and a fueron. Fueron is a definite past. Fueran is a subjunctive thing. So you don't want to confuse those. So, but hiciste bien, you did well. And you had a big, long precipitaciones. That was a tough one. And you had a convierte, which you did a nice vowel spread through that. Bien. Okay. Aquí. Voluntario. ¿Quién? ¿Quién quiere? Who wants to?
I'll do it.
Okay. Gracias.
El año pasado fue el más cálido de España desde que se iniciaron los registros en 1961 y también el sexto más seco del país.
El sexto más seco del país. Sí, bien. Okay, we had a good registros there. Bien hecho. And notice they've got some ordered words here. We had, earlier on, we had quinta parte, a fifth. Precipitation was a fifth of what normally would be expected. Okay, and then we've got another ordered number here, not seis, but el sexto.
Six.
The sixth, yeah. Sometimes we get these numbers and they look a little bit like a number-ish word, but you might not know. Sexto is what they call an ordered number. Yeah, ordinal number, not a counting number. Okay, so in order, sixth, driest. Okay, in the country. Bien. And this word escasas means like scarce, scarcity, refers to scarcity, scantness, not having much of something. Okay. Un voluntario aquí. Bien. ¿Quién? Bueno, Fede.
Uh,
Marlene, I'm going
okay.
to take you next. Federico.
Oh, no. Okay.
That's okay.
3 años de escasas precipitación. No, don't help me.
That is a long one. Yeah. So break it apart.
Precipitaciones.
Okay, mejor.
Taciones. Yeah.
Tación. Sí.
Y altas temperaturas pusieron al país oficialmente en una sequía prolongada a principios de este año.
Principios. Good. You did a great correction on that. Sí. Magnifico. Okay. Here's the one word where our English bleeds over. And by the way, when you have a little bobble like this, don't feel self-conscious about it. Know that these are typical things that people who speak English have a little bobble over all the time. Not just you. Many people. So let's take a look at this word here. The precipitaciones isn't as big of a hurdle as you think, but you know what? What are you more likely to use instead of precipitaciones? I'm just going to put in a word you may use instead of this.
Yeah.
That's all that means. Rains. What's precipitation? Rain. Okay, it could be snow, but yeah. When you speak conversationally, instead of precipitaciones, you're going to use that word, lluvias, rains. Okay, so precipitaciones is a fancy word, right? More scientific word. Bien. Here's the word that we sometimes, however, bobble because our brain in English wants to think of fish. Shelly. Okay. And we got to get rid of the sh. Okay. So how do we do that? We're going to break it apart. We're going to break this word apart into two parts. And when we look at this, we can't think oficial. We have to think oficial.
Yeah.
Cial.
Oficial.
C-I is always C. And the reason we make this bobble, and even if you don't say it, your brain may be thinking it. Tenemos en inglés la palabra official, pero no. Yeah. Except for the X that you sometimes hear in Mexico from, native languages. Yeah, you may hear a sh in Mexico for things like Xochimilco, the native language places, the indigenous language places that have an X. That's the only time you're going to hear a sh sound in Spanish. But oficial, and then we just tag on the mente, oficialmente. So always feel free to take words apart and not say it fast, but say it, take it apart in syllables. Okay. Vale. Bueno, Marlene, this is a really long sentence. So here.
I'll stop at España.
There you go.
Un estudio creciente realizado por un grupo de científicos internacionales la semana pasada encontró que las temperaturas récord de abril en España.
Bien, ok. Y continúa Portugal y el norte de África fueron 100 veces más probables por el cambio climático causado por el hombre en general. Bien, sí. Y habría sido, it would have been, casi imposible en el pasado. Casi imposible en el pasado. Bien. Okay. A recent study. Realizado. What the heck does that mean? We have either words, but recién realizado. Those two terms are hanging together to create an idea. What kind of study?
Recently discovered? Recently
Done, finished. Yeah. Realizado does not mean realized. It means something that actually has been accomplished. So a recently done study or a study done recently. Yeah, that's a better translation here. A study done recently by scientific groups. And wow, you went over científicos and internacionales. Really, really great. Sí. Bien. And the study found that the record temperatures of April were 100 times more probable on account of. Por there means on account of, because of climate change caused by man. And they would have been impossible in the past. Almost impossible. Casi imposible. Okay? Bien. Bueno, okay. And this little odd word is kind of an odd word. Record is a borrowed word from English, but you know what that means. It means what you think, record temperatures. Okay. Bien. Y aquí tenemos la palabra de solicitar. Solicitar is to request, to ask for, to solicit. Yeah, see? Bien. ¿Alguien quiere? Somebody want to take that one? ¿Quién? Somebody?
I can go.
Gracias.
El gobierno solicitó fondos de emergencia a la Unión Europea para apoyar a los agricultores y ganaderos cuyos cultivos se ven afectados por la situación.
Excelente. Muy bien. Bien hecho. Bien hecho. And your emergencia was a good, there is one that is a really useful word. Emergencia. Hiciste bien. You did well. Emergencia. See, this one is always hard. This is hard for everybody, even for me. Europea. Europea. European. Europea. But actually, you did quite well with that. This actually, the ending of that winds up being weird. And this one is a hard one for EU. EU. Wow, what an odd vowel combination that is. Isn't that odd? Yeah. Even though Europa would be a really common word. Yeah. EU, pronouncing it that way is hard for us to do. Europea. Europea. Unión Europea. Bien. Okay. Fondos. Fondos son funds. Funding. Yeah. So the government asked for, solicitó, asked for emergency funds, emergency funding, however you want to phrase that, from the EU to support. Apoyar is support or helping out. Yeah. To help, farmers and, ganaderos. ¿Qué son ganaderos?
Ranchers? I don't know.
Yeah.
Eso
okay.
sí. Ganaderos. You know that EROS talks about somebody who's got a job, and their job goes back to ganado. Ganado es cattle.
Oh,
So,
rancho.
yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, ranchers. Bien. Okay. Fantástico. Y hay un link. And, I'll send you this whole thing. There's the original English. Except I put in the lluvias. So I'll put back our precipitaciones. Pero en realidad, if you're speaking to people, you're more likely to say the rains as opposed to precipitation. Most of the time, yeah. Lluvias is a more common word, a more conversational word. Okay. Bien. Fantástico. Okay. Buen ejercicio de calentar. Ahorita, right now, we're going to seg into the main feature of today, which is talking about our video. El video del bebé. Oh, the baby video. And I just love this because que buen padre. What a good dad this guy is going to make. Pablo va a ser un papá fantástico. He is going to be a gem of a dad. Okay. Es lo único que puedo decir. That's the only thing I can say about that. Okay. What I do want to know from you guys, was it helpful for you to hear a video and to have vocabulary that you didn't have to look up certain words, but you could just look at a photo? Was that helpful or not?
Yes,
Absolutely.
absolutely.
Yes, very much.
Absolutely.
Yes.
The
Yeah.
photos, the visual being that we learn most through our eyes, the visuals and the words were perfect.
Yeah. So the only thing that was really kind of hard for me to do was this word llevar. Well, and ya está, right? Ya está was kind of a tough one to find something pictorial for. And llevar was difficult to find something pictorial for. But keep in mind that llevar is un verbo. This is a verb. And this verb was over and over. Did you notice how many times they used the verb llevar in that? And they kept talking about where they took him. Okay. And remember that llevar has a whole bunch of possible meanings. So this is not the only definition for llevar, but I had to go with the definition that they were using in that context. But remember that llevar is used in a lot of contexts. This is one of the most common ones. And llevar talks about picking something up, carrying it, and putting it in a different place. Okay, that was the context they used in this video over and over again. Llevar. And it can mean to take somebody in your car, to take somebody on the back of your motorcycle, if you do that, to actually physically lift something up and move it, which is what they were talking about in this video, picking the baby up and moving him to a different spot. Okay. Pero
Can I ask a pronunciation question?
sí,
When
claro.
I look at that, I say Yevar. What I'm hearing you say is more like Javar.
Lleva, sí, okay. Es buena pregunta. That's a good question, because this thing of the L, the double L, has an acceptable range of pronunciations, okay? So
Yeah.
somebody from Buenos Aires is going to pronounce that verb as llevar, llevar.
That's right.
Like that. Yeah. Okay. Esteban, ya sabes. You already know that from your friend. Okay. But really and if you say it as llevar, everybody will kind of blink. Everybody outside of Buenos Aires will kind of blink and say, ooh, Argentine, wow, from Buenos Aires area, because even all of Argentina doesn't necessarily use llevar, but it's a real strong. Here's what most people do. The acceptable range is llevar, like a Y, and like an English Y, flat out English Y, llevar to llevar. A little bit of a J, a little bit of it. Think Dr. Zhivago, but a really a very, very short J. That is mine, because most of the people I spoke with as a younger person had that little bit, added in. But the range between llevar and llevar, with a very slight J, anything in that range is acceptable. And
that
even
seems
within,
to be,
go ahead, perdón.
well, it seems to be parallel then to yo, because sometimes the Y-O I hear as yo and other times as Joe.
Joe, yeah. Sometimes you'll hear that Joe. Yes. And the Y, the Y, it's kind of a similar thing there. Okay, like the word amarillo, I get just a little bit of a J there, amarillo, or llaves. I have a tiny bit of a J, but really, really cut short. Okay. Like a je with a Y, and the Y is a little more heavier sound than the je. So even within the same country, like say, Mexico, even within one country, you may get different pronunciations of that letter.
Okay.
But anything in that range between the flat out, just a llevar, and llevar is acceptable.
Good.
Totally good. Bien?
Mhm.
Okay. Bueno, okay. Como llantos. Yeah, I have a little bit of a J with mine. Yeah, llantos, sí. Bien. So, quirófano. That is a word you needed to know for that video. Do you need quirófano in your active vocabulary? Probably not. Because how often do we need to talk about an operating room? Unless you are medical personnel working in a medical situation, you will not need quirófano. So good to know for that video, but active vocabulary, I wouldn't sweat that one. Pero si parto, birth, barriga is used by moms the world over. Barriga is really, abdomen, right? Ya está is just a group of words. Yeah. Cuna, you're likely not to need that for a lot, but it's good to know in that context. See, alimenta is feeds. See, ombligo. How many times are you going to talk about your belly button? Probably not a lot, but ombligo. You go to certain parts of South America and they consider themselves el ombligo del mundo, the belly button of the world.
Really?
Oh, sí. Yeah. You go to certain parts of Ecuador and Peru and speak with the native peoples there, and their tradition is they consider themselves el ombligo del mundo, the belly button of the world, meaning the center of the universe, which is a very charming term. Vigilar, vigilar, vigilar. Tenemos la palabra vigil. Yeah. A vigil is, wow, sitting up and watching. Well, that's what vigilar means. Vigilar means to watch over. We would probably say for vigilar, monitor.
Mhm.
Yeah. We would say monitor as a verb, not as a thing on your computer. Not that monitor. But yeah, we monitor someone's progress. That would be translated as vigilar el progreso del paciente. Así es, vigilar, quedarse, to stay with. Recién nacidos, there they talk about newborns. And this is one where we can't literally translate. Yeah, recién means recent, but they'll never say newborn, and they'll never translate that new with the idea of newborn into nuevo. It'll always be recién nacidos, recently born, or, oh, newlyweds, recién casados.
Oh.
Yeah, that word recién means newly, yeah, recently. And they won't put the word new, nuevo, in there, in that kind of a word. Lágrimas, lágrimas, tears, see? They had a couple different ways they talked about somebody being weighed, pesaba o había pesado. He weighed and they had weighed him. Okay. Dar de mamar. I got one little comment here, folks. Mucho cuidado, mucho cuidado. This is one of those things. Dar de mamar is to, well, it's not breastfeeding. That's all it's doing. But cuidado, careful, because hay gran diferencia entre mamá, mamá con acento, y mamá. En inglés, even in English, people may say mama. Pero mama es un verbo. Mama is a verb. So when you really mean mom, you need to punch the a at the end, mama, because otherwise it sounds like the verb that means a little baby is sucking at mom's breast, getting milk. Okay, so now those two things are related. Yeah, that term, mama, comes from that idea of nursing. Well, that's natural. Okay, pero mama es un verbo. Mama is actually a verb, so cuidado, careful. Planta refiere a una parte de una sección o un piso or a floor. Planta can refer to a floor of a room or a particular section of a very large building. See, planta. Okay. Dejar means to, in this case, in this context, to leave behind. It can mean other things. Cuidar, to care for. Here's a word you do not need for active vocabulary, right? And I have to look at, tengo que examinar con cuidado y mirar con cuidado. Ictericia, ictericia, ictericia. ¿Qué es ictericia?
It's jaundice.
Jaundice.
Jaundice es una enfermedad. Ictericia es una enfermedad muy común con los bebés, muy común, ¿sí? Cuando la piel y el color del ojo tiene un aspecto de amarillo, ¿no? Amarillo. And interesting that our word jaundice really comes from the French word for yellow. But amarillo, yellow in Spanish, does not come from the jaune of, that yellow word in French came in to talk about jaundice, I'm sure because of the yellow color that happens with that. Leche en polvo, yeah, formula, yeah, formula, see? Y sacaleches. Sacaleches is a great thing. Sacaleches es una máquina muy pequeña. This is a really little machine. And Spanish likes to do this on occasion with certain types of gadgets or devices, where we take a verb and we combine it with a noun. And it means a little gadget that does that thing, like abre latas, opens cans, can opener. They take sacar, take out, with perdón, abrir con latas, opening cans, abre latas. So this takes out milk, saca leches. It's a breast pump, but nobody going to use the word pump. Saca leches, because that's what it does. It extracts milk. Yeah, breast pump. Okay. A ver. Okay. La primera pregunta. Se trata del periodo de tiempo de la familia en el hospital. Es de comprensión de la historia, del cuento. ¿Cuánto tiempo estuvo la familia en el hospital? ¿Cuánto
No.
tiempo?
3 días.
3 días.
Las padres estaban 3 noches y el bebé estaba 4 días.
Sí, sí. Sí, el bebé se quedó un día más. El bebé se quedó en el hospital un día más que los papás, los padres. ¿Bien? Sí. Ok.
Pregunta.
Sí, dime.
When you ask the question, how much time, estuvo is preterite,
Sí.
correct? But when he was answering the question, he used, estaba, he used a descriptor, he used the imperfect.
You may hear either one, and people will use one or the other there. And estaba es muy normal. That is very normal. I used estuvo because I was thinking of a closed period of time that was very definite. Pero estaba, sí está bien. Estaba is also perfectly okay. No importa mucho. It doesn't matter really, whichever one used there, because I was thinking in terms of a very definite period of time. I put in estuvo, but you could use estaba. Sí, bien. Everybody's going to get that. Sí. ¿Por qué? ¿Por qué llegó? And I put in an extra word here because some folks in my morning session wanted a different term. ¿Por qué llegó temprano? O de antemano is just another way of saying temprano. De antemano is beforehand. ¿Por qué llegó temprano la mamá? ¿Por qué llegó temprano?
Why?
¿Por qué llegó temprano? Why did she get there early?
Yeah.
La mamá no quería nacimiento natural, por lo tanto llegó temprano preparar para cesárea operación.
Okay. Sí, ella llegó temprano por la cesárea, on account of the cesarean. ¿Sí?
So that's por versus para.
Sí, okay. Bueno. Pensemos un poquito. Let's think a little bit about this. No hay una sola manera. There's not just one way. No hay una sola manera de expresar la idea, ¿sí? If you want to, you don't want to think about the because of, okay, puedo decir, llegó temprano por la cesárea. She arrived early on account of the cesarean, because of, por. Okay? Pero también, we could also say, equally correctly. Llegó temprano, por ejemplo, para prepararse, prepararse para el parto, to prepare herself for the
The birth.
birth. O el nacimiento, igual, same thing. Da igual, all the same. Para el parto, para prepararse in order to prepare herself. But if you say because of a cesarean, then it becomes por. Okay? Por la cesárea. But there's not just one way to say that.
But it needs to be reflexive if I'm throwing para.
Pues quizás sí, quizás no. Prepararse, prepare herself, o preparar, just prepare. No hay gran diferencia. There, don't think in terms of there's only one way to say that, because that really isn't true.
Good.
We could take all that you see in blue out. Let's yank it out. And let's put it into something maybe more basic. Porque tenía que preparar antes del nacimiento. There are a lot of ways you can say something. Don't limit yourself to there's only one way, or I don't know this word. Go with something you can. Tenía que. See? Now, I like prepararse here a little bit better because you get yourself ready. Yeah. Yeah. So, para mí, suena mejor. For me, it sounds a little better because really the woman is getting herself ready for that medical intervention, if you want to call it that. ¿Sí? ¿Bien? Ok. No hay una sola manera. Ok, sí, pregunta.
La familia está en España o en Tailandia.
En Tailandia. En
sí,
Tailandia, sí. La esposa de Pablo, sí, buena pregunta. La esposa de Pablo es tailandesa y los dos, o ahora los tres, viven en Tailandia. Sí.
Porque el proceso es diferencia en los dos países.
Sí, sí. Pablo nos contó un poquito de la historia del parto porque hay diferencias entre el proceso en España y el proceso en Tailandia. Hay grandes diferencias. Sí. Ok, son notables. They are really noticeable. Ok. Bien. ¿Cómo estaba el papá durante el parto del bebé? ¿Cómo estaba el papá? ¿Cómo se sentía? How did he feel? ¿Cómo estaba el papá?
Estaba nervioso.
Estaba nervioso, muy normal. Sí, estaba nervioso, sí. ¿Y qué hizo el papá? What did he do? ¿Esperó en el salón de los papás? Did he wait in some dad's waiting room?
No.
Estaba al lado de esposa.
Estaba al lado de... sí, él estaba al lado, sí, al lado, right next to, al lado de su esposa. Sí, buen esposo, sí. ¿qué hizo el papá? Y sí, estaba al lado y habló con su esposa durante el parto, ¿sí? Durante la cesárea. Él habló con ella. Él habló con su esposa. ¿Qué no hizo? Una cosa que no hizo.
No vio la operación.
Exacto. No vio la operación.
Operación.
No vio como el corte.
No.
El corte de la barriga. De la barriga no vio el corte de la barriga. He didn't watch the big cut. ¿Sí? Que también es normal. Ok. No quería ver porque él nos dijo que una vez vio un video de una cesárea en YouTube y
Sí.
That was enough.
es suficiente, ¿sí?
Una vez.
No,
Una vez.
sí, ya está.
Ya está.
No quería ver, sí, no quería ver más. He didn't want to see that one more time, ¿sí? Ok, a ver.
Él está delicado.
Pues es perturbante, it is disturbing, ¿no? Es perturbante ver el corte del cuerpo del esposo o de la esposa. Es perturbante, it is disturbing. Sí, es difícil.
Sí.
Si eres, quizás no, si eres enfermera o enfermero o médico, pero normalmente con un miembro de la familia es difícil ver un corte tan abrupto. Ok. ¿Qué hicieron las enfermeras con el bebé después del parto?
Las enfermeras limpió el bebé.
¿Limpiaron el bebé? Sí. Limpiaron el bebé. Esto sí es normal. ¿Y qué más? What else did they do? Limpiaron el bebé y
Colocaron en una cubita.
sí. Entonces, sí, lo llevaron al bebé, transportaron, sí, llevaron al bebé a otro salón, otro cuarto, ¿sí? Y aquí es como fue distinto el proceso en Tailandia comparado con España, ¿sí? Bueno, porque llevaron al bebé a otro salón para vigilar, to do what? Para vigilar.
Watch.
Sí, para vigilar la respiración.
Oh, monitor, yeah.
Yeah.
Sí, vigilar la respiración, vigilar
Temperatura.
la temperatura, que también es muy, muy, muy importante con un bebé, un recién nacido. Es muy importante vigilar la temperatura. Bien. Ok. ¿Y cómo? ¿Qué hacen normalmente? ¿Qué hacen las enfermeras o los enfermeros en España? ¿Cómo es distinto? How is it different? En España, ¿cómo es distinto? This is where you talk about how it's really different here.
Yeah.
¿Cómo es distinto? ¿Recuerdan? Remember how it's different? This is something that really kind of hit him as wow, this is not what we do back when I grew up.
Las enfermeras dejaron el bebé con los padres en el salón.
Exacto. Ok. Sí, en España, por lo general, la práctica normal es dejar el bebé con los padres
Ah,
inmediatamente.
Mhm.
¿Sí? En España, lo normal, the normal thing, lo normal es dejar al bebé con los papás. Y el bebé se queda inmediatamente con los padres. Pero en Tailandia no es el protocolo, no es lo que se hace. It is not what is done. Sí, en Tailandia sí llevan a los bebés a otro salón para vigilar la temperatura y la respiración. Ok. ¿Por qué no se fue el bebé con los padres inmediatamente después de nacer? Right after being born. ¿Por qué no se fue el bebé a casa con los padres? Why didn't baby go home right away with mom and dad? Mom and dad went home.
Mario tenía ictericia.
Exacto.
sí.
Tenía un caso de ictericia, ¿sí? Y que es muy normal. No es enfermedad muy grande o grave. Es una enfermedad bastante normal para los recién nacidos, ¿sí? Ok, aquí, cosas personales. ¿Fuiste alguna vez al hospital? Claro que sí. Did you ever go to a hospital? Claro que sí. Of course you did at some time, ¿sí? Bueno, ¿qué fue difícil? What was hard about being in the hospital? ¿Qué fue difícil para ti, para ustedes? Para mí, sí, Esteban, dime.
Para mí, dormir durante la noche porque de todo el ruidoso, is that right? Because of all the noise?
El ruidoso.
Sí,
Ruidoso. Sí, un hospital. En un hospital es muy normal que hay mucho ruido
sí.
en un hospital. Entonces, ¿por qué es difícil el ruido? ¿Por qué es difícil?
Why is it difficult because of the noise?
Sí, ¿por qué es difícil que hay mucho ruido?
You know, say, oh, good Lord.
Pista, clue. Mira.
Yeah.
My mind is working. All the machines going off.
Ok.
Beep, beep.
El ruido es difícil porque es difícil dormir,
Sí,
¿no? Yo creo que sí. Sí, para mí la cosa más difícil de estar en un hospital es que hay tanto ruido y no se puede dormir fácilmente. Sí. Ok, pero otras cosas. ¿Qué fue difícil? What was hard? La comida. Jen, sí, Juanita.
Una enfermera hace un paciente horrible. Yo sabe todas las cosas horribles
que puedan pasar. All the bad things that might happen. Ok, yo sé yo sé.
Yo sé. Oh,
O quizás conozco. I'm familiar with.
conozco.
That
Sí.
might even be better, really. See, como enfermera, as a nurse,
Ujú. Sí.
sí, conozco bien las dificultades,
Ujú.
sí, conozco lo que pueda pasar. I know what can happen.
Yes. Sí.
Lo que pueda pasar, what might happen.
Yeah, sí.
Sí. And you may choose to say as yo sé lo que puede pasar, or conozco to say I'm really familiar with, which maybe is really closer to what you mean.
Ujú.
¿Ah? Sí. Eso sí. Okay. A ver. Otra idea. Any other idea of what is difficult? ¿Qué fue difícil? What was hard?
Algo diferente. Mi primero niño requirió una cesárea a último momento. Su baby fue una posición inusual,
Ah.
un pie abajo. Esta fue hace 40 años. Mi esposa y yo habíamos entrenado por muchas semanas para estar con ella en la sala de partos. Pero cuando fue clara que podría ser una cesárea, se evita ir a la sala de espera con los otros hombres.
Ah.
I was thrown out.
Te despidieron, they kicked you out. Sí. Bien. Sí. En realidad, a mi esposo no le gustó para nada la experiencia de estar en el quirófano con el parto del bebé. No le gustó para nada. Bien. Ok. Siguiente. ¿Cómo eran los médicos y los enfermeros o enfermeras? ¿Cómo eran? Descripciones.
Muy simpático.
Simpáticos, ok. En realidad, cuando mi esposo se fue al hospital en enero de este año, los médicos eran muy amigables. Nos dijeron muchas cosas. Nos dieron mucha información. Eran pacientes. Los enfermeros y las enfermeras eran muy pacientes y le dieron mucha atención. Ok. ¿Algo más? ¿No? ¿Y qué te pareció interesante? What seemed interesting to you in a hospital setting? ¿Qué te pareció interesante?
I had sort of a unique experience.
Bien, dinos algo.
It's a few sentences, so be patient.
Está
Cuando
bien.
estaba en mi habitación del hospital en Kansas con mi 9 nuevo baby hijo, de repente las sirenas de tornado sonaron
¡Wow!
fuertemente.
¡Wow!
Las enfermeras corrieron a nuestra habitación y llevaron los dos bebés a otro lugar por su seguridad. Tenía miedo, los vientos en la lluvia eran fuertes. No sabía dónde estaban los bebés.
¡Wow!
Nos dijeron a las nuevas madres que nos quedamos en nuestras camas. We had to stay in our beds and don't get out.
¡Wow!
Afortunadamente, después de un poco de tiempo, el todo claro, and los babies came back.
Un tornado en el hospital. Ay,
And I had a
Ex-
huge window next to me, and I kept on imagining all the glass blowing in.
ay, qué mala experiencia. ¡Wow! Lo siento mucho. Un tornado. Ay, Dios mío. Eso me parece imposible. Me parece imposible. Ay. Aquí son poco frecuentes los tornados, gracias a Dios. Bueno, a ver, ok, muy bien. ¿Hay otra observación o no? Oh, nada, nada, pero sí, sí, Federico, dinos algo.
Yo para sí, la sala de operación por mi corazón fue muy interesante.
Ok, sí. A mi esposo le fascina el proceso de dar medicamentos, sí. Por ejemplo, cada vez que le pusieron anestética o anestesia, sí, él tenía mucho interés en el proceso de administrar los medicamentos y las medicinas y todo eso. Y es buena idea vigilar la dosis de las medicinas, ¿sí? Que te dan en el hospital, porque es importante saber todo un poquito de lo que deben hacer. Ok, a ver.
Parece a mí
Ok.
que los médicos son dentro y fuera, pero los enfermos trabajan en el hospital.
Yo creo que sí, que las enfermeras y los enfermeros hacen la mayoría del trabajo fundamental, ¿sí? Y porque tienen que vigilar todo. Tienen que vigilar, sí, el corazón, la respiración, la dosis de las medicinas y es muy complicado, es muy complicado. Eso es, ¿sí? Y cuando vinieron los médicos, los doctores, solamente pasaron quizás 5, 10 minutos con nosotros, sí, y nos dieron información, nos dieron el progreso del tratamiento, how your treatment was progressing, pero 10 minutos quizás, eso y ya está, that's it, sí, ya está. Entonces, sí, Después, el enfermero o la enfermera hace la mayoría del tratamiento. They do most of that treatment. No, es así. Es así. Ok. ¿Tienen ustedes alguna pregunta de lo que nos dijo Paulo? Do you have any questions about any kind of little turn or phrase he used, or why he used any combination of words there? Anything that sounded weird that you took note of? Or did that all make sense with the vocabulary that you had?
This is a silly question because I know what it means. The word is entonces, but he uses it again and again and again. Almost every
always.
sentence begins with entonces.
Some of that is intentional because his method is to repeat.
Okay.
So that it becomes a pattern that you accept as a normal pattern. So what is the normal? Well, and that's interesting that you bring up entonces. We want to think about a lot of this he does very deliberately, as he wants you to hear normal words that people will use, and entonces is one of those connectors that lets you flow from one event into the next. And it's just showing you sequence, then this, then that, then that. Okay. So he's thinking mentally about all those steps that came one after another. And thus a lot of entonces. Okay. Could have used después afterwards, but.
And he rarely uses luego.
Nuevo?
No, luego. Then, the other then.
Well, entonces is really for then. De nuevo, you might use to say again, somebody did something, but entonces or pues or siguiente, those are all the kinds of things that will show you, like, overlapping going into the next phase. Yeah, but nuevo won't be one of the words that you'll use for that, or you'll hear for that.
Haber también, ¿no?
Haber también, haber is used a lot. And haber means, well, literally to see, yeah? But haber is well, next. Let's see. A ver, let's see. Yeah. So if you're like mentally thinking of, something that comes next, many people will use a ver, well, let's see. And I'll use that as a transition phrase as well.
How are you spelling that? How are you?
Two words.
A and ver. Ver.
There, not Haber.
No.
Okay.
Qué buena pregunta. What a good question, because really, these two things will sound exactly alike.
Right. Yeah. And sometimes
they are pronounced the exact same way, and no hay ninguna diferencia en la pronunciación. A ver is like somebody saying, well, let's see. Yeah. And a ver, you're going to start something new. A ver, well, let's see. Let's get the ball rolling here. A ver. Okay. But it sounds exactly the same as this verb, a ver. Oh. The pronunciation is not at all different because this letter makes the exact same sound as this letter, and we don't pronounce this letter. So what do you hear? You hear a ver. And what do you hear? You hear a ver, the exact same pronunciation. Okay, but that a ver is that verb that means to have, but it's that auxiliary verb have. Okay, has nothing to do with tener. Yeah. Haber is, something they combine with another second, with a participle, right? Okay. See, but when you hear it, you have to be listening for the totality of the context, and that can be tough. Yeah. Okay. Otra pregunta. Any other question about what you heard him talk about? I love the way he talked to that little baby when he was talking to the baby that mommy and daddy have to go home and we're so sorry we can't take you home. That is so cute. Just to die for. Oh my gosh, it's so cute. I thought that was the greatest thing in the world. Actually, that's even worth a really quick look because I loved that. See, me encantó, me encantó, me encantó. I really loved that because that is how you want mom and dad talking to little baby right from the start. Que buen padre. What a good dad he is.
En el hospital y se esperan a que le baje
Como aquí.
y a que esté mejor, ¿no?
Bueno, qué pena que no te puedas venir con nosotros.
Qué pena que no te puedas venir. I am so sad. It is such a shame that you can't come with us. Ay, qué buen papá. Qué pena que no te puedas venir. Qué pena. And it is no te puedas. Yeah, qué pena. What a shame. And when we have a feeling like what a shame, how sad. Yeah. Qué pena could have been que lástima. But that second half is a subjunctive. What a shame that you can't come with us.
Todavía, ¿eh? Pero ya enseguida te vendremos a recoger.
But pretty soon, ya enseguida, pretty soon, we will come. Te tendremos a recoger. We'll come pick you up. Pretty soon we'll come pick you up. Vendré.
Vendré cada día. Te vendré a traer leche cada día. Y bueno, ya enseguida te llevaremos a casa y podremos.
And really soon we'll take you home.
Estar juntitos.
And we can all be together juntitos. We can all be together juntitos. He made that an hito, a term of endearment. Yeah, we'll all be together. I thought that would. I was almost crying for that one. Okay, bien. Excelente. Entonces, hay otra pregunta. Any other question about did you notice how many stinking darn pronouns there were all over the place?
Yeah.
How many lo, la, le? Yeah. All of those lo, la, le.
Yeah.
Did they make sense in context to you?
Some of them.
Some of them? Okay. Was that still a little challenge? I mean, could you figure out that he was talking about, well, they took him into the incubator room? Did that make sense or no?
Yeah, I mean, in context, it's like the nurses did this, or, the nurses were doing this. They cleaned, they took him into the little bed and yeah.
Lo llevaron a la cunita. They took him off to the crib, sí, a la incubadora, to the incubator. And always think, when you're listening to stories like that, always think the verb is telling you who's doing it. Yeah. The pronoun isn't necessarily telling you who's doing something. The pronoun is telling you who's getting the brunt of the action in most cases, unless it's a reflexive. Yeah. Well, in the reflexive, it kind of does that too. But yeah, those pronouns are telling you who's on the receiving end of that action. But the verb itself is telling you who's doing it. So, when he is saying something like up here, this whole thing of te llevaremos, we will take you. We're doing the taking. And in this case, it's a future thing. But it's a we'll be taking. You is the one that we're carrying off. Yeah, we'll take you. He's talking to his little son, Mario, see? So, okay. Bien. Bueno, ok. Entonces, I would like to know which direction you want to take this next, because there are two ways we can go. Do you want to do a little more with, well, actually, they're going to be kind of impossible to separate here. I want you to keep working the idea of telling stories in the past, telling what happened in the past. But we are going to do a little bit with these pronouns again. Is that okay with everybody?
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes,
And sometimes they
yes.
throw in lays, sometimes they throw in laws. And I
Funny
try to
word.
work backwards and confuse myself and then go, oh, they're talking about him, but I don't know why.
Okay. So let me give you a quick lowdown. Why is that hard for us? I'm going to give you some things that you'll be watching to try to review those concepts. Okay. And let's get rid of our previous question there about haber and haber, which sound exactly alike. And let's revisit this, because I have a great storytelling thing. And what we're going to do to prep for, as kind of a homework thing for next week, is you're going to have a video to review these concepts of why we use all these pronouns, and then a story where they're going to plug it in context. And it really, really helps in context. Now, why is it hard? Because we've got all these darn pronouns, and I would use another term other than darned, but we're publishing this, so I won't. Okay. These kind of pronouns are what we call object pronouns, but the reason they are really tricky and difficult is that in English, essentially, there is no, there is a difference. In English, it is no big deal if an object is direct or indirect. It's no biggie. Yeah. Okay. A direct object. I'll call him later. Who am I going to call?
Him.
Him. But that word him there happens to be direct. You never think I'm going to use a direct object. Of course you don't. Nobody talks that way. Nobody thinks that way. Okay. But when in English we say, oh, I'll call him, right? It's lo llamo. I'll call him. Okay? And the word lo is him. But if you want to say, I'm telling him, I'm not going to have a lo there. I'm going to have what instead?
Le.
Le. Le digo. I'm telling him. So why does it do this flip-flop from lo to le? Because there, the le also means the same thing. So in English, we don't have a different word. We just have him. Okay, here we might say, maybe, I'll say to him, and there is the key. However, in English, practically speaking, that word him doesn't vary a whole lot. It's always him, whether it's direct or indirect. But in Spanish, we do have to do a handoff, a switching. And that switching happens because of the kind of action this is. Okay? Here, the him is not direct, and it cannot be, because a direct object answers the question, who or what? What am I actually telling? I don't know. It might be a joke. It might be information. It might be directions. But the thing I'm actually telling is a direct object. It's the words coming out of my mouth. And the words coming out of my mouth do not equate to this concept of him. All right? What it really means is to him. I'm telling something, and that might or might not be even stated. That's direct object. But here, the idea of him is not a direct object. It's indirect. You're telling something to him. And that's why that word needs to become le. Okay? So we need to be thinking about what kinds of verbs use this word le. What kinds of verbs? Okay, and that is going to be the real key. So what you're going to see and notice and think about are, you're going to get a think about it video that talks about why these things are different, object pronouns, all of them. And you'll know notice she's got a le on this side and a la on that side. Okay, direct objects can be people or can be things. So this word la, or the corresponding masculine lo, or the plural, which are los and las, those are direct. And lo, la, los, or las means direct, but they can refer to people or things. People or things. But this word over here, le or les, the plural corresponding, really is only going to talk about human beings. So the key is going to be to know which kind of verbs maybe take both a direct and an indirect, or only a direct object, right? If I say I'm calling him, that can only take a direct object. Who am I calling? I don't call this. It's not a human being. I can have this. See, lo tengo, I have it, but I can only use, so certain kinds of verbs will only take direct object and therefore direct object pronouns. Certain might take both direct and indirect. So she's going to talk about a variety of those. And then we're going to show you some different things that might take indirect. I'm going to show you a little preview of this. Let's take a quick look. Okay. Certain verbs like dar, and these are not the only ones, by the way, but these are common. Dar and decir and enseñar, or even mostrar, to show, because sometimes enseñar is used as show and sometimes as teach. Hacer, leer, mandar, wow, mandar for sure, decir for sure, dar all the time, pedir almost all the time, prestar, when you loan something, but except we like to use that word borrow. Yeah. Repetir, servir all the time, and traer all the time, right? These kinds of verbs lend themselves to both direct and indirect. Okay, so let's see an example of that. Julio gives me a kiss. What does he give me?
Kiss.
A kiss. Kiss is a direct object. But if I want to say who gets that thing that is kiss, that person is
Me.
me. Okay. Now, in Spanish, you never have to bust a gut over the words me, te, and nos. You never have to bust a gut because me, te, and nos are always me, te, and nos. And you never have to think about, is that direct or indirect? You don't have to think about it because we use the same words in both camps. We use it in camp direct, camp indirect. Makes no difference. It's when we get down to that third person stuff that it's a grind. Yeah. If we want to change it to he gives her a kiss, now I need to make that, if I were to say her, he gives her instead of me, right? That word her would have to become le,
Le.
right? Because the thing he is giving is a
Yes.
kiss. That's a thing. And who gets that kiss? A human being. And that human being has to become, in this case, if I changed it from me into her, it would have to become le. This is a more concrete example of, I read the book to Isabel. Yeah. I read the book to Isabel. And what am I actually reading?
The book.
That is a thing. Okay. And now we're not changing book into it. We're going to talk about this little hangnail that is a Isabel. And if you're reading her a book, I'm reading her a bedtime story. The her, a Isabel, has to become a little pronoun then, and that little pronoun has to become le. Because she is not the thing you're reading. I can't use la in this context. Okay? Even though you think, well, Isabel, isn't that a girl? Shouldn't it be la? But la is when it's a direct object. And the thing I'm reading is not, I'm not reading things. She doesn't have stuff tattooed on her body. Okay? La can only talking about the actual physical letters I'm reading in some way. Okay? So if I'm reading to a person, who is getting that information about the book? A human being. And that human being, it becomes a to her idea. It becomes le. Okay. So certain verbs will use both a direct and indirect, but those words le and le, they get something. They get a direct object in many cases. They might not always in the sentence, but they often do. So we're going to give you a video with that will remind you of what those little structures are. And it will talk in much greater length. And then you're going to get, ¿dónde está? Una historia. You're going to get then to put it into practice and hear examples of it. Una historia, un cuento. You're going to get a short story, the trail of your blood in the snow. Oh my God. Because you know what? In Hispanic literature, you just cannot have a happy ending kind of story because that's not their style. That's not how they roll. This is going to be a very surrealistic kind of story. So I will warn you about that. It is not going to be a Disney kind of story at all. But you're going to notice, so it's going to be an oddball kind of story because that's what makes it fun. And also it's going to plug in a lot of these things. And sometimes you're going to hear lo, la, los, las. Sometimes you're going to hear le, les, les. And I want you to pay attention to that. But watch the instructional video first, and then watch the application here. ¿Está bien? We good?
Está bien.
Okay.
Sí.
Magnifico. And then we'll put it into practice with some conversational questions, but they won't be questions where you have to think like really, really hard. You don't need to preview them. You can see them next week because they're going to be conversational kind of applications. Babe? And, you know, we're going to plug in which pronouns we use there. Okay? Todo bien? All good?
Sí.
Sí.
Gracias.
Magnifico. Okay. De nada, de nada. So we'll explore this pronoun thing because it's kind of impossible when you're storytelling or talking about what happened to you. It's kind of impossible to divorce that from a normal conversation. It sneaks in, and you saw that with the Pablo thing a lot, and you're going to hear it with this new story a lot. Es lo que pasa. That's just what happens. Okay, bien?
Bien, gracias.
And I am going to give you, again, a set of photos to talk about the vocabulary, so you don't have to look up like every stinking word, yeah? So turn on the subtitles for sure, but you're going to get, like with the birth video, a lot of pictures that describe specific words that I think you normally might have to look up. Okay? So that you see a pictorial, a depiction of what that activity is, and maybe don't have to look up so many words. Está bien? All good?
Está bien.